Okay, next we're going to talk about, finally, the sequencer. Okay, the sequencer is this big button right here. We haven't really pressed it. You know you're in the sequencer when you see these stripes and they're red. Okay, so that's the sequencer. No, there's more. Okay, so I'm going to just record a sequence right now. Let's keep in mind that there are 64 steps available, and you can use less than that, or if you'd like. I'm just going to do... I want to demonstrate 64 steps, but maybe I'll just do 32, just not to go crazy. Okay, I'm pressing record. I'm going to record in real time. It's not going to be real time, but I'm going to enter the notes with my fingers. Okay. Okay. There we have a sequence. Let's set it to eighth notes so it doesn't sound insane, because we're at 120 beats per minute. Okay, I need to address something before we start anything. If you look to the left here, you'll see a legend that says step, accent, slide, and mod. Step are the individual steps of the sequence, and accent, as you can see, I have triggered the accent in my recording. I'm going to undo that for a moment until we talk about accent so as not to distract you. Okay. So, a couple of things. Now I have 32 steps of sequence. Let's listen to it. Let's start. Okay, so it's looping through half of the possibility, which is 32 steps. Keep in mind that you can take steps out if you want by pressing the step button. So there's that. Also, you may want to tie steps together. And to do that, all you do is hold down the button that is the beginning of what you want to tie, and then tap the button that is the end. So like, for example, now you'll notice that this is slightly darker. I've just tied the first two steps of each little section here. Let's listen. Let's do it here too. Okay, so it's really easy to make ties. Now let's talk about the accent. Accent's really easy to make happen, but remember, before you even start pressing any buttons over here, you need to set your velocity slider on your amp and or your filter to really hear the accent, because it's playing off of that. So we'll set the velocity high. Actually, we'll do it on the filter too, just for fun. As you can see, I'm playing, and the velocity with which I am playing makes a difference. So then we could do things like this. Put in little accents. I'm putting them in randomly, not entirely remembering what's going on, so that might be interesting. So now every place that I've pressed in the accent row will cause an accent both in the amp and the filter. If it's too much, you can definitely back it off a little bit here. We could like take the filter out of it. Okay, so there we go. That's how easy it is to add accents. Also, I should point out at this point, I didn't show you the step recording process. If you want to step record, all you have to do is press these step arrows down here. They're marked, and it'll put you on, you can find your way through the steps to get to the step you want. I'm going to take the first step because I know what note it is. So if I want to change this note, all I have to do is hold that button and then choose a different note. Now it's going to be different. And I have to re-accent it, but the tie seems to work still. That's weird. Okay, so if you want to step record, you can also get into the step mode by using these step arrows, and then just hold the step you want and press the key you want, and there you have the note. Meanwhile, I'm going to set this back to what it was at by using the step method. Now it's an A, and it has remembered that I wanted an accent on that A. So the A accent has returned. It remembers the last setting. That's really awesome. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about slide. That is the next row up, and basically anywhere that you press is going to have a slide. The slide, of course, matters. It depends on what's actually happening. So choosing slide randomly, like I just did, does not guarantee results, but we're going to listen to it. What happens with the slide is it is directly connected to the glide, and the slide amount will be whatever the glide amount is set at. The glide on-off button becomes inoperable when you're in the sequence mode, but you will see it come on whenever the slide, whenever there is a slide marking. So let's hear how this sounds. We'll see if it's doing anything. Yeah, we can hear a little there. And you can control the amount. Of course, you know, how fast your sequence is going is going to make a difference. So if you got a really fast sequence and a really high glide amount, you're just going to get kind of a mess, if maybe that's what you want. But you can adjust the glide amount that's happening in the slide to suit your tempo. Okay, before we talk about sequence mod, I'm going to take us over here to the panel. The saving functionality here is predicated around the idea that you can save these sequences as patterns to be applied to different sounds, which is pretty cool. Or you can click the link button, and then it will be associated with a preset. Currently, this one is associated with P1. So if I were to save it, I would save it to P1, the preset. So every time I loaded P1, this sequence would be associated with it, but I don't have to. I could save it just as a pattern, and it would be an individual pattern that you can load to apply to anything you want. So that's cool. We have a MIDI sync button so that the internal synchronization is disabled, and it will sync to the MIDI signal coming in, which is awesome. Patterns are where you find the patterns that you want to load if they're not associated with the patches. Link is what links a pattern sequence to a a preset that exists, which we already talked about. Sequence length is, you press sequence length and it will show you the sequence length. That red line will show you how long the sequence is. We have it at 32 steps, and that's where it is. So it basically shows where it ends in the midst of the matrix, which is correct. So that's convenient. Okay, the sequencer button, what the sequencer button does is it makes it so when you press a key, the sequencer is triggered. And when you let go, it goes off. So you can basically play this sequence and it will, of course, shift to whatever notes you want to play. And if you're the sort of person that says, hey man, I want to be able to just press the key and have it keep going, then, and this is not labeled, but if you press the key hold over in the play control, now everything you play will just continue to play. And if you're a person like me that might just want to activate the sequencer when you want it to play, you can turn the sequencer button off and then just press play. So next we're going to talk about some of these note controls over here. First and foremost, you have the rate control. You can control the tempo of your sequence. Up to 259.9. If you want to set the tempo to something else that's happening, you can certainly tap the tap button, which is blinking to tell you can tap it if you need to reset the tempo. So that's really convenient. Okay, in addition to that, we have below, you can see a quarter note, a triplet, and a dotted quarter note. And basically what those denote is if you have it set to the quarter note, it's going to play straight quarter notes. If you choose triplets, it's going to go to eighth note triplets. I know it sounds like a tempo change just happened, but if that was against a metric drum part, you'd be able to hear that now we're in triplets. It's no longer a duple feel. And the dotted quarter note does the same thing, and it's hard to hear. It's more obvious in 16th notes. But again, we would be able to hear it better if you were hearing it against a solid beat. It just sounds like a tempo change when it's not. I should have planned ahead and had a beat to play them against so you could hear the difference. But suffice it to say that the rhythmic value is changing here. Okay. So, and then below, we've already sort of messed around with this a little bit. You can choose quarter notes, which basically means each step is a quarter note. Eighth notes, where each step is an eighth note. 16th notes, where each step is a 16th note. And of course, 30-second notes. Woo! Okay, that's a lot of fun. I'm going to put it back to eighth notes. Below that, you can see forward, and reverse, and random, which you might associate more with an arpeggiator, but works with the sequencer as well. We can hear this backwards. So theoretically, the sequencer can be made to operate in a lot of different ways that give you a lot of different note possibilities, because this backwards does not sound like it sounds forward. So you've actually just doubled your sequence there, especially if you've got it on forward and reverse, where it loops through it, goes through it forward, and then goes backwards through it. So you've actually got 128 steps in your sequence then, as far as how the notes sound individually, which is cool. And then random, it will just randomly select one of the steps within the sequence. And if you've got a 64-step sequence, which we obviously do not, that's 64 different notes that it can randomly choose. You can create new melodies, new feels, a whole bunch of stuff can go on. It's really interesting. Over here we have a swing knob. I bet you can guess what happens when I turn it. It's a little kind of, yeah. I was going to come up with a saucy adjective, but I failed. I don't know how to describe it. But yeah, so you can add swing to it to give it a swing feel with immediacy and simplicity. And you also get to see on the screen here what percentage you're set at, so you can make metric decisions and stop there and reuse it. So that's very convenient. And then, of course, one of my favorites is the gate, which defines how long the note is playing within the step. Accents get longer gate times by virtue of them being accents, but everything else gets is subject to whatever the gate knob is set to. Turned it all the way up. So that is essentially the sequencer, except for one major thing that we will talk about in the next video, which is using the sequence mod function to make your sequence sound even cooler.